Okay, in this video we're going to talk about verbs in Spanish. You'll hear me refer to them a lot as infinitives because in Spanish when you have a verb and you translate it to English, it translates to an infinitive form. All that means is that you're going to put the word to in front. So you're going to say to and then add the verb. So if we talk about verbs in English, we talk walk, talk, eat, sleep. But in Spanish, when we say that those same verbs and we translate them to English, we put to walk, to talk, to sleep. Okay? So again, just when we say, oh, we got to conjugate the infinitive or you got to conjugate the verb, usually that's what I'm talking about there. Now, in Spanish, infinitives end three different ways. They'll either end in AR, ER, or IR. Okay? And usually the ARs we treat one way, and the ERs and the IRs we treat a different way. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about conjugating a verb, or we'll put conjugating an infinitive. So all conjugating mean is, because I have a lot of students in my class that'll be like, oh, they hear that word conjugating is like, oh, it's so hard. It's all that means is we're changing the verb. Okay, conjugating an infinitive, and there's 3 steps to it. Okay, so remember on the first video we talked about agreement, how our verbs have to agree with our subjects. That's not that big of a deal in English, but in Spanish we have at least 5 different forms of the verb. If you count vosotros, there's 6 different forms of the verb. Remember our little chart that we do, we have 6 different forms. And so we need to make sure we pick the right form that agrees with the subject. So if we don't, if we're just picking a random form, it doesn't match. So back when the last video when we did tener, you can't say nosotros tengo. Those don't go together. It's nosotros tenemos, yo tengo. So we have to make sure that our verb, the form of our verb, agrees with our subject. Okay? All right, so here's step number 1 for conjugating an infinitive. We're going to remove the 2-letter ending. So this ending's here, the AR, ER, IR. So we're going to take that off. And then we have the stem is what's left. So the stem remains after we've taken off our 2-letter ending. Okay? And that's what we work with. You'll see the stem is common to all of the forms. These are regular verbs. Remember, tener, we saw that wasn't the case. But we have, sorry, so step number 2, once we have our stem, take our 2-letter ending off, we need to identify the subject. The whole point of conjugating an infinitive is to have it agree with the subject. So it makes sense, we need to know which subject we're dealing with. So, and then the third thing is add appropriate ending to the stem. And we're going to talk about these endings here. We'll do a little chart with these different verbs in just a second. But that's where you got to match them up. So you have the stem. You've already created the stem by removing the 2-letter ending, and then you go to your chart, and depending on which subject it is, you grab that ending and then attach it to your stem. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the endings. Let me erase this, and we'll make a couple little charts here. Okay, so I have one set of endings that work for my verbs that end in AR. And I have another set of endings that work for verbs that end in ER and IR. Okay? Okay. So for my AR verbs, if I'm talking about myself, if I want to say I do something like I talk or I look for or I buy, you're just going to add an O to the stem. Okay? So we had, let's say we have the verb to talk, which is hablar. if I take off my 2-letter ending, I have a bleu is my stem. And if I want to say I talk, I just add an O to it. Okay, so this stem here, this a bleu, that's going to be common for every single form. And then the endings will just change because we change the endings depending on who it is. Okay, all right. So the to form would be os. Usted el rey is going to be a. Nosotros is amos. This is ice, A-I-S, and this is on. So again, I will tell you the vosotros form. I know on the AP test they test you on it, but this is a college prep class, so so it does exist. It is there, but it will never be on the test, so that's why we don't cover it. Okay, over here for the ER and the IR, we have O, works the same for the yo form. The to form is S. The L or A form is E. So pretty similar. AR and then ER. Nosotros, we have two different options here. You have amos. That's for the ER. You want to match it to your stem here. So that one's going to match that one. And then here you have emos. So if it's an IR verb like vivir or escribir, you're going to match it. You're going to put emos on the end. Okay. And this is ace. And this one is N. Okay. So again, we'll switch back and forth depending. So the stem will stay the same. We just will switch out the different endings depending on who it is. For example, if you see a sentence that or a question that asks "Donde viven?" So "Donde viven?" So this is where do you guys live? Oh, we should probably put ustedes in there somewhere. Let's add that at the end. ¿Dónde viven ustedes? So this is, we know this means you guys live. So where do you guys live? Well, when we answer our question, we're going to change. We don't say you guys again. You say we live, because we'd have to change it to first person. So again, we got to switch from this ending. We're going to keep our stem, viv, but now we got to go up to this one. So we say vivimos in, and then wherever you live, you can add that in, okay? Same thing with the to form. Where do you live? ¿Dónde vives tú? Yo vivo. ¿Hablas español? Sí, yo hablo español. So this natural, we just do that automatically in English, where if a question is in the you form, second person, we automatically change it to the yo, or to the first person, yo. But we got to get in the habit of doing that in Spanish as well. Okay, but again, the point was that the stem will stay the same. The stem is consistent, and then we just change our endings depending on who it is. Okay, that's it for conjugating verbs. This is in the present tense, by the way. Okay, let me write that down. Present. All right.